Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today we are going to go over another legal thing that just happened, and that is that Disney and Scarlett Johansson have settled their lawsuit out of court. Now this isn't unforeseen. Actually, if I remember correctly, I think when this was actually starting out, I mentioned that this was probably the most likely income is that Disney would most likely just pay her off and get rid of all their baggage, basically, since they probably should have compensated her anyway, like Warner Brothers has been doing with their actors and actresses for a lot of their movies that are going direct to streaming. But here's the thing. I'm gonna go over a little bit of this stuff just as a recap, and then we're gonna get to the actual meat of this thing. Now, Scarlett Johansson in July filed a lawsuit against Disney claiming that they breached contract with her on Black Widow because the movie did not have an exclusive theatrical release, and therefore that hurt its box office and gave her less money. Now, that is most likely 100% true and very provable. But here's the other thing too: is that if this was because a lot of this is dealing with Disney Plus, and a lot of this is dealing with kind of the interworkings at Disney, which is something they usually don't like to put out in public, and it probably would have been put out in public should this lawsuit have continued on forward. Disney chose to settle out of court. Now, the amount was not disclosed, and apparently it was also stated that in the original NDA that Scarlett Johansson signed, it was if there were any legal proceedings following the film in regards to her and the studio, it would be settled in private. Again, that's not uncommon among larger studios. A lot of them do not want their financial information aired out for everybody to see. They just like to, put up the quarterly reports so that the board of investors can, ooh and ah and figure out which heads need to roll. So again, not a very surprising outcome in this case. She did get paid. Even though they don't say exactly how this settlement went, she got paid. I don't know the amount. The only people that do know that amount are the legal representatives involved, Scarlett Johansson, and the representatives from Disney. So ballparking it, I would imagine it would probably be something around an extra $10 to $20 million. Maybe a little bit more depending on how much damages were estimated at. But they probably paid her less than what she probably would have gotten from Black Widow going to theaters. But they definitely paid her more money in order to get her to get off their back because she had a legitimate legal claim against them. Now, the other thing too is that we haven't heard anything involving Emily Blunt, Dwayne Johnson, or Emma Stone, some of the other actors and actresses that were affected by this. Now, it's possible that Disney got ahead of the curve and they paid them off behind the scenes, so that way they wouldn't have to go to legal arbitration. Which, again, that would have been a pretty penny, especially for some of the more high-end actors and actresses that were in agreements with that. Um, Now, again, I can't put a ballpark. Well, I can put a little bit of a ballpark, but I can't put an exact number on what they paid her. But it is to a point now where Disney is willing to work with her again. The legal bindings are now off the table. They also formally announced that her movie for the Tower of Terror, is going to be going forward as well. The one that she was assigned onto that they removed her from, they have now added her back to, and several other projects that are apparently going on at Disney and or Searchlight Pictures, formerly known as Fox. So basically, as far as she's concerned, they're back in business, and it's business as usual. Which again, not that surprising. More or less, this is if Disney, and again, this is kind of a thing that Disney doesn't do on a regular basis, but they should probably learn from this. And I think they have learned from it to an extent because they changed Shang-Chi's release and they made it a solely theatrical release, so that way they wouldn't have this issue with the stars from that film. And I have a funny feeling they're probably going to do the same thing moving forward, even though Shang-Chi in the end made less money overall because it did not have the Disney Plus numbers and it made basically almost an identical box office to Black Widow. Which again means that in the end, if it may have made a little bit of money, depending on how that budget kind of shook out, because the estimates for the budget were between 150 and 200 million. If it's on the high end, it did not make money. If it is on the low end, it may have made a little bit of money slash broke even. It is still in theaters. It is still making some money. So we'll see what happens at the end of its theatrical run, and if Disney putting it on Disney Plus is going to be charging any rental fees. I'm sure if it's anything outstanding, they will post that. But by this point, it probably doesn't matter because a lot of people that are going to have seen that movie have already gone and seen that movie. Um, but like I said, this is one of those situations where if Disney gets ahead of the curb, if they try to do this again, then I think that they won't have the legal problems that they had in this scenario. But they definitely took a hit on this, and they knew they were going to take a hit on this. They put out all the hit information they could on Scarlett Johansson when this thing first dropped in late July. And basically, when everything was going on, they tried to make her look bad. They tried to discredit her. They did a lot of scummy things, which I mean you would kind of attribute to Disney and a lot of their lawyers and stuff like that at this point. Um, but in the end, she had a legitimate legal claim, and it was settled out of court because Disney did not want this thing to drag through and have another production, more specifically the Tower of Terror production, um, bogged down because they had to replace her. So it was just easier for them to pay her some form of a stipend that they both agreed on, sign a new NDA so she can't talk about any of it, and then sign her back on, or either that or reinstate the contracts that they removed her from, or give her new ones, whatever they decided to do in those situations. I would assume Disney would have just re-signed her to the same contracts if they were null and void at any point in time. But yeah, like I said, pretty clear cut, but this is relatively big news because this is now the end of another major lawsuit right after we got the Friday the 13th stuff yesterday. But I want to know what you think. Do you think that this was the most likely outcome? Would you have rather seen this go to court? And have Disney kind of dragged through all of that crap. I personally would have liked to have seen that. It would have been funny. But put your thoughts in the comments below as usual. I like to read them. Hit the bell for notifications. Hit the like button. Subscribe. And remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?